Hey, if you play acoustic guitar and you want to spice up your playing with some percussive effects, in this video I want to show you 5 awesome ways to hit and slap the guitar to make your playing more interesting. So I'm going to run through each one of these techniques and give you an example of each of them, and then at the end we're going to put all 5 of these together into one famous song. The first way to slap the guitar is what we can call the palm slap. You hear this in every Roomba you've ever heard in your life. And all we're doing is slapping our palm against the guitar. What's happening here is several different things. We're going to hear the strings hit against the fretboard when our palm hits the strings, but we're also hitting our fingertips on the wood here and the side of your thumb here. So we're getting 1, 2, 3 things at once. The problem with this, as we'll see later on, is that it kills whatever you're doing, and there's a little bit of silence, of course, right there, and sometimes we might not want that. There's a variation for this where we can do the same type of thing, but just don't hit the strings and just knock your fingertips right here. As you might know from watching my channel, you can play anything on nylon string guitar. It doesn't have to be specifically a Roomba rhythm though. You can fit this into any rhythm, any beat that you want to accent this on. We just slap the guitar right there. Number 2 is the knuckle slap. You see all these fingerstyle guitarists all over YouTube doing this. We're basically just slapping our knuckles against the string, but we're also very often grabbing a chord and doing a block chord like this. So we're going. So some people call that the or at least I've called it the YouTube slap. But the first time I ever heard this slap was More Than Words by Extreme. Killer guitar player. To get the volume for this knuckle slap, we need to kind of bend our wrist out this way and then whack it back like this. And it's very much like you're knocking on a door. So we're going. Hard thing about this sometimes is positioning your fingers so that when you slap, you're ready to go on a chord. So I'm using the side of my thumb here. As we'll see later on, that's something that we want. Side of my thumb is hitting the bass string, and then I've got this block chord, and I'm just kind of slamming it, but making sure that when I get to the end of it, I'm ready to pluck upwards. The third one is a variation on the knuckle slap because, as I mentioned before, the knuckle slap, when you do that, we end up killing the string and killing the chord. But if you're playing a fingerstyle arrangement, if you watch my channel, that's very much what we're doing, is playing solo acoustic guitar, classical nylon, even steel string. But a lot of times we want to have a note ring out, in the melody certainly, but still keep that percussive thing going. So we can't do the palm slap, and we can't do the knuckle slap because that kills most of the time, depends on how many strings you hit, but that's going to kill a lot of what we're doing. So what we're going to do is just take the thumb part from the knuckle slap and then slap with the side of our thumb. So this is like the side thumb slap. Just like this. So we're getting that snare drum sound I was talking about earlier about the strings rattling against the fretboard, and you can really kind of whip it with your wrist. For the knuckle slap, we were doing this, I was saying, we can knock into it. This way is going to be more of a twist, like you're pouring a bottle of sangria. So that would sound like this if you're trying to keep the percussive thing going, but you want notes to ring out in a melody on top. So we might do this. Right, the fourth one is the snare drum slap. Now earlier we were talking about having the strings rattle against the fretboard, and that sounds kind of like a snare drum. That's what a snare is, that little rattling wire in there. But what we're going to do here is hit it really hard. It sounds to me even more like a snare drum, even though we don't get that rattliness. But what's happening here is we're killing the strings at the moment that we do this downward strum. I like to use my middle finger, but sometimes I also use my index finger. Either one will work. If you use your index finger, you can kind of flick it off your thumb for extra like propulsion on that stroke. We're not actually muting the strings in a way, we're kind of synchronizing it so that we're killing the strings the instant that we strike them, or maybe just like a nanosecond after we strike the strings, because if they were truly muted, it would just sound like this dead sound, but we do have this really kind of explosive blast that's happening right here. So right at the instant that you hit the strings, do this karate chop kind of thing, not so much on the side of your hand as I am right now, more like this, because you got to come back. It's usually followed by an upstroke. So we're going to go like that, and then you can come up. We're perfectly positioned at the end of this to come back with our index. And that's also true of the palm slap, the first one we did. We slap like this, and we're ready to go on an index finger upstroke. This one has a more powerful sound. We can definitely use it on some rock songs. Very often we'll use it on the 2 and the 4, doing the slap on the 2nd beat and the 4th beat. That's called a backbeat. So let's check it out. Okay, the 5th way to slap the guitar or to hit the guitar is literally called a hit. It's a golpé, which is specifically a flamenco technique. And this is different than all the other ones that we did. We're using the nail and hitting the wood of the guitar. If you don't have a tap plate on your guitar, or what they call a golpeador, which means a tapper, you're going to eat a hole eventually through your guitar with this technique, but it's going to take years for that to happen. And it looks pretty cool when you do, so don't worry about that. What we're doing is trying to move from this knuckle. Keep your ring finger curved like this at every knuckle, and we're just going up and down like that. So it's easiest when it's all by itself, like this. And that's a great way to practice it at first. Tap with your ring finger, up with the index, down with the index. Tap, up, down, up, tap, up, down. That could be a rhythm pattern itself for a song. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... What's more difficult to do with this golpe technique is to do a simultaneous index finger downstroke or thumb downstroke. So we do this in flamenco a lot, going... Then going down with the index and tapping at exactly the same time, and that ends up being this kind of scissor motion where my index finger goes out and my ring finger comes in like that. And it's not just that we're tapping down and we're not stopping there, we're continuing. Don't leave your ring finger on the guitar. Tap it and then make this kind of circular motion to get out of it. So when you do a bunch of them in a row, it kind of looks like a circle. And then with your index finger, it's not exactly the opposite or same as that. We're going down, straighten your finger, and then come back. So we're going... Also do it with your thumb, strumming down with the thumb and doing a golpe at the same time. That takes some getting used to. But then again, it sounds great all by itself, just going. So when it's a tap by itself, not in conjunction with another finger, it might sound like this. Or if you practice doing your index finger downstroke with a golpe at the same time, we can do this. Okay, those are 5 awesome ways to slap and tap and hit the guitar. Let's see what happens if we put all of these together in one song. This is a good one, only 2 chords. E minor and an inversion of a D6-9 chord. We could say D6-9 over F sharp, but who cares? This is E minor, and then spread your fingers out this way. We're gonna start out by doing the knuckle slap. Now the melody comes, so we got to do the side slap. Those are 5 awesome ways to slap the guitar. I use these all the time in almost everything I do. And now you have a bunch of choices. You can use one or the other depending on what you're doing. That reminds me of a guitar slap I call the McDonald's slap pattern from an old commercial I remember from the 80s. I'm going to show you how to play that right here. Okay.